Hello and welcome to another Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. In this video I'll be showing you how to make a loot bag so that when you walk up to it there is a dot in the middle of it and it can be seen through walls and through other objects, and when you get even closer to it you can see it says E to loot. So if I press E, the bag deflates and coins are added to my coin bar. So to get started, we need to go to the content browser and we need to add the assets folder. The link is in the description, and once you download that you'll get a zip file. Go ahead and unzip that, and then once you open that up, click on the UE5 files. If you want all the FBX and the blend files, they're all over here, and be sure to read the credits. Most of them were made by Pixel Life on Sketchfab, but we can go ahead and go into this file. All we need to do is copy this assets file inside of here. So we just copy that, and then in UE5, right click on any of the folders in the content browser, click Show in Explorer, and then click the up arrow to go into the content, and then Control V to copy and paste. And then once we have that inside of here, you can go ahead and close that out, and you'll notice that there's now a assets file right here, and it has all sorts of things like tables, a barrel, a scroll, and all sorts of other things. And we'll be using these inside of other tutorials, like getting health from pots and breaking barrels, and also opening chests. But in this video we're going to be looking at collecting loot bags. So the next thing we want to do is go into our blueprints folder. You can see I have it right here, and that's just the test though. So we'll right click and then do blueprint class, actor, and we'll call this BP coin pouch. So we'll go ahead and open that up. And the first thing we need to do is add a static mesh. Go ahead and click that. And then in the static mesh, we want to get the coin bag. You can either type it in or it's right here, coin bag. And right now it's way too big. So I found 0.12 to be a good size. And then next after that, we want to get a sphere collision. And I found 23 to be a good size, and this will be the collision for when we show the E widget. And then we want to copy and paste, and for the second one we're going to call this sphere big, and I found 80 to be a good size for that. And this is going to be when we can see the dot in the middle of the coin bag so that people know that you can loot it. Next, select the static mesh and scroll down. We want to change the collision type to no collision. Next, I want to add a widget, and then I'll copy and paste this. And for the first widget, we'll do underscore E loot. And then for this one, we'll do widget underscore dot. So next, we need to create these widgets. I'm going to drag this into the scene just so we can see what it looks like. You can see it's the right size and is laying on the ground. And you can see how big the spheres are. You can change the size of them depending on when you want the character to see the dot or the E message. So we'll go back to content, UI, and then I'll right click, scroll down, user interface, and widget blueprint. I'll click user widget and then call this WG dot. So then we can go ahead and open that up. Next we'll want to come up to the search palette and type canvas panel, drag that in. Next I want some text. Go ahead and drag that onto the panel. And then in the text block, all I want to do is put a period in there, and then do sized content, and then anchor it in the middle. And you want to try and get the period as close to the center as possible. I found -4, -28 to be good, anchored in the middle, and that gets it pretty close. So we can go ahead and compile and close out of that. And in the coin pickup, we can go to the widget dot, and then in the widget class, type in dot, and we want to do the widget dot. And then in the space, we want to do screen, and that way it shows to the screen. And we want to put that around in the middle of the coin pouch. So now if we play, you can see that there is a dot in the middle of the coin pouch. If you want it not to be as visible, you can always change the color and opacity of the dot. I'm just going to leave it as the white color. Next, we're going to come to the UI folder. I'm going to copy the widget dot and paste it, and then I'll call this one widget prompt, and then loot, because you may want to have different prompts, like one to say read or interact or something like that. This one is going to say loot, and I'm just going to delete the text in the middle. And since we already have a canvas panel, I'm going to come up here and get a horizontal box. Then I want to get a border and drag it into the box, and then a spacer, and finally some text. The horizontal box I want to be anchored in the middle, size content, and for the alignment I'm going to do 0.5, 0.5. Make sure to click the arrows on the position, that way so it's directly in the center. And for the text, we want this to say loot. And then one more thing, we want to get some more text and drag it into the border. And for this, we're going to type E, because that's the key that we're going to press to be able to loot. Next, with the border selected, I'm going to go to the brush color, and I'm just going to change this to black. That way we can see our text. And then we want to click on the text right here, the E, and in padding, I'm going to change the top to 5, the bottom to 5, and the left and right to 16. So 16, 16, and then that makes it more of a square. And then the loot text, I want to center it on the bottom and on the right. And the spacer, we want to drag the one on the left, just to give it some space to make that look better. And clicking on the horizontal box, you can see that it's right in the middle. Next, we want to go back to the coin pouch and the widget eLoot. We want to go to widget class and then type loot, click on loot, and you can see if it's on world that we'll just be able to see it. That's why we need to put it on screen. That way it's always visible wherever the camera is positioned. And for the eLoot, we want to raise it up just above it, so that way it's not inside of the loot bag. So if we click play, you can see that we can see it, and wherever we walk, it's going to be facing the camera. So that's going to work. Next, we need to make it so that we can only see the widgets if we enter these spheres. So with the sphere big selected, I want to get on component begin overlap, and with the sphere big select again, on component end overlap, and the regular sphere, I want begin overlap and also end overlap, so the same thing. Next, we can delete these ones. We want the event begin play. So we're going to get actor of class, and then we'll get player info, promote to variable, and then F2, and we'll call this player info. And starting with the sphere big, I'm going to give it some space. So on the sphere big, off of other actor, I'm going to type equal, and then off of that, I want to get player character, and also want to hold down B for branch and plug that in, and also want to hold down B for branch again, because we're going to do another check, and I'm going to create a variable, make sure it's a Boolean, and then I'm going to type closed question mark, and then I'm going to drag closed into the branch. So once we press E to pick up the coins, we don't want to see any of the widgets anymore, because that shows that we've taken all of the loot and you can't take anymore. So we want to check if it's closed, and if it isn't, then we're going to continue to show the widget. If we have taken the loot, then we don't want to do anything. Next, I want to get the widget dot, because that's controlled by the big sphere, and then I want to drag off of here and set visibility and on true, because we want to check if the actor that's colliding with the sphere is the player character. We don't want an AI or anything to collide with it and then make the visibility turn on. So when the character is colliding with it, we want to set the visibility to true. So by default, we need to set the visibility to false. So with the widget selected, type in visible and then untick, and we'll do the same for the dot, untick visible. So by default, we won't be able to see the widgets. Next, I'm going to copy this stuff right here. I'm going to leave this here. I just want this stuff, and then I'll Control V and plug this stuff in, and then I'll get this, plug it into the bottom, and other actor into the top. And then for visibility, I want to untick that, because when we leave the sphere, I want it to not be visible. Next, it's the same thing for down here, just a different widget, and you can actually just drag this into here and it'll do the same thing. So I'll select all of this and Control C to copy, Control V, and then plug this in, and then make sure to plug in other actor into these. And then for the widget dot, we just want to take the widget E, drag it on top of that, and that'll change the reference. And now if I walk up to it, you can see there's a dot in the middle. If I walk away, it disappears. And if I walk closer, you can see the E to loot. And if I walk away, you can see it disappears. So that's working good. Next, I want to go to the class settings, then go to interfaces, implemented interfaces, and then type in interact interface, and then that'll make a new thing over here where we can see interact. You can click on that, right click, and implement interface. And if you don't know what this is, we set this up in the previous video in the blueprints, interact interface, and you need to make sure that there's one that says interact. All you do is click the plus button and then name it interact, and then you'll see it over here. So with this, we'll want to get the player info, and then we want to set the coin. And off of here, I'm going to add, and then plug this one into here to get the reference. And then off of here, you could set like a value of 3 or 4, but I'm going to make it random. So I'm going to type in random integer in range. So for the minimum, I'm going to do 3. The maximum, I'm going to do 6. So by picking up this bag, you can either get a range from 3 to 6, and it'll be randomized. Next, I want to play sound, and I'm going to do the coin sound that we did in the last video. If you don't have it downloaded, you can go ahead and download it in the description. It will be there as well. And then after this, I want to set closed, because that means that we've taken the loot and we don't want to do it anymore. So before here, we want to add a branch. So hold down B, and then get closed. and then off of false, plug that into there, because if we already taken it, we don't want to do it again. Next, I'm going to copy this up here, the set visibility, and paste it, and then untick visibility. And we also want to get the widget dot, and this will make all of the widgets instantly disappear so that we don't see them anymore. Next, we want to drag off of here and type in timeline and see add timeline. And then we want to plug this into play from start, not from play. And then we'll double click on this, and then we'll want to click add track and add float track. And for the length, I want to do 0.25, and then I'll right click, add key. For the time and value, I want it to be 00, and I'm going to add another key. For the time, I'm going to do 0.25 and value of 1. And then I'll click these buttons to be able to see it better. And then I'll click on this one and shift click on this one. Right click and do user. And then you can change the curves based on how much you want it to scale down. So what we're doing here is making an animation to make the coin bag shrink. So off of the new track, I want to get lerp and then a control and drag it into the alpha. I'm going to double click on this and then click on the track F2 and then call this value just to give it a proper name. Then you'll see right there value. I want to get the static mesh. I'm going to F2, call it coin, and then I'll drag the coin. And then off of the coin, I want to set the relative scale 3D. And then I'll plug this into the update. So on each update, it'll change the value depending on the time that we set in here. And this doesn't match, so we need to right click and click split. And we want to change the Z axis, which is the up and down. And what this is doing is animating from a value of 0 to 1. So the alpha is going from 0 to 1, and this is the starting value. So we want 0.12, and we want that because the coin has a scale of 0.12. And then we want to shrink it, so I'll do 0.05. So we're going from 0.12 to 0.5 for the z-axis. And then we want to change these to 0.12 as well, otherwise it'll set the value of the x and y to 0, and we don't want that. Next, we want to be able to interact with this, so we need to go to the content browser, third person, blueprints, and then the third person character. And in here, we're going to do something very similar to what we did in the last video with the interact interface. But first, we need to go back to third person, input, open up the IMC default, and then copy and paste the jump, F2, and then call this interact. So we have interact, and then we'll go back to the IMC default, and we'll click plus, and then click on the dropdown, and click the interact, and then click the drop-down arrow again. Click on this, and then click the E key, or whichever key you want. The most popular one for games is the E key, so I'm going to do that. And then back in the third person character, right below where we have the coin information, I'm going to right click, and then type IA interact. And you want the enhanced action events. So then you'll see something like this. And then you just want to copy and paste all of this right here. And I'm going to do this off of started, so you'll need to click the drop down, and then click the up arrow to make it go back up. And we don't need this, so I'll just control and drag that into there, delete that. And then the only thing we need to change in here is the message. So off of here, instead of hit, I want to get interact. So there's the interact message, and then control drag to place those into the new slots, delete this, and then this is all set. So if we click play and then walk over to the coin and I click loot, it makes a sound and deflates, and you can see that it gave me 3 coins. I can also walk on top of these, and then that gives me more coins. You can see that the color's gone out of these because we got the new asset folder. So with the coin selected, I'm going to do Control B. That'll take us right to it, and then click on the cylinder or coin, type gold just to reset that material. So there you can see the material again. Alright, that's all for this tutorial for creating a loot bag. In the next video, we'll set up the cooking pots, and we'll use particle effects from the starter content, and when you're near them, you'll be able to press E to get more health. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.